same chant, just a different name. This time, Jacob Blake, the black 29-year-old shot 7 times in the back by a white police officer and left paralyzed. For the 4th night, they marched on downtown Kenosha, peaceful but resolute.
Every time they turn on to the news channel, every time they turn on to their social media, that they see black lives are getting taken by police and getting slaughtered by police. They're like, enough is enough. So we're tired, and we're going to be out here. No justice, no peace, no justice.
You're an officer. Your job is to protect us. Your job is not to shoot us, but to protect us.
The local basketball team, the Milwaukee Bucks, refused to play the night's game in protest. And across the NBA, in an unprecedented move, all basketball games were postponed, having only just restarted.
Despite the overwhelming plea for change, there has been no action. So our focus today cannot be on basketball.
So too the US Tennis Association, soccer and Major League Baseball. One high-profile coach daring to criticize the president as he aired the anguish of all.
All you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. It's amazing why we keep loving this country, and this country does not love us back.
Donald Trump hasn't mentioned the daylight shooting of unarmed Jacob Blake in front of his 3 children. Instead, in a tweet, he was more concerned to send the National Guard to end what he called the lawlessness on the streets.
When we talk about additional National Guardsmen coming into the state, the way that works is it's a governor-to-governor agreement, and those soldiers or airmen would come into the state under my command.
Are you worried about the president tweeting about it as if it's his decision that it will escalate tensions here?
No, ma'am. I don't worry about the president's tweets.
Thorough and full investigations in cases involving officer-involved shootings.
The police officer who shot Blake was yesterday named by the Wisconsin Attorney General as Ruskin Shesky. He's been put on leave, but still no arrest. How far along are you with the investigation? And have you given any time frame when you hope to make a decision? You're aware, obviously, of the protests that are going on here and the pressure.
No, we're going to move the investigation quickly. This is an important case, but we're going to make sure that we develop the evidence fully and thoroughly.
There was an arrest yesterday of this 17-year-old self-styled vigilante, Kyle Rittenhouse, who was filmed as he shot and killed 2 protesters in chaotic scenes on Tuesday night. Earlier, he described what he saw as his role to guard against looters.
What's up?
So people are getting injured, and our job is to protect this business.
It later emerged via his Facebook page that he'd attended one of President Trump's rallies in Iowa in January and was a strong supporter of the pro-police Blue Lives Matter movement.
But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest.
Vice President Mike Pence did note the strife in Kenosha during his speech to the Republican convention last night, but failed to mention the cause of the unrest.
The violence must stop, whether in Minneapolis, Portland, or Kenosha. Too many heroes have died defending our freedom to see Americans strike each other down. We will have law and order on the streets of this country for every American of every race and creed and color.
That's not how these protesters feel. As the president prepares to give his big address to the nation tonight, they feel it's one rule for Americans of color and another for everybody else. Well, I am joined here now by the state senator, Lena Taylor, and by the local activist, Brandon Morris. Can I start with you, Senator? We are surrounded here by the visceral image of what's been going on here in Kenosha the past 4 days. What's your reaction to the shooting of Jacob Blake?
As a mother, as a human being, to see him go from the passenger side, the right back passenger side of the car all the way to the front left driver's side, and there wasn't anything that they could do in order to stop him or to make their point known, instead of getting to the place that literally not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, Not 5 or 6, but 7 gunshots. He is paralyzed right now. And to the people who say, well, what about this or what about that, or he should have complied, or what about his record, or they were responding to this, you cannot tell me that a police officer's job should not be, since it is to protect and serve, that it should not be to de-escalate. Using your weapon should be last. It should not be first.
That police officer has been removed from his position, but not so far arrested. The Attorney General yesterday told us that they were working on the investigation. What do you want to see happen to him? What do you think should happen?
Definitely should be arrested, prosecuted, and time served.
No. He don't need no time, no time served. He need a conviction. It needs to be investigated so that we can properly say what's what. But from what I saw, if that's it, I need to be able to say that there needs to be the process that any other person would go through, that you would go through as a black man.
We've heard from protesters here, forgive me, we've heard from protesters here that there's a problem with the police, that it's deep-rooted, the racial injustice, the treatment of black people. Is that your experience?
That's totally on them, and that's their opinion.
But is that your experience? How do the police treat black people here in Kenosha?
I can't speak for everyone. I can only speak for myself. But from what I've heard, yeah, it is treated unfairly. And yeah, it has to do with systemic racism. So I think it has to be a part where that system gets restructured and restructured with the community's voice.
Do you think that will happen? I mean, we've had the cry for change that we've had since the death of George Floyd.
No, we've been crying for change long before George Floyd. Let me be clear. In Wisconsin, we have had individuals that were like Eric Garner that was in the back of a car saying, I can't breathe, okay? As a state senator, only the second African-American woman when I came in the building to be a state senator and the 5th African-American, the issues that people are awake to now, these are the issues I've been speaking about on the Senate floor since day one.
Your president is speaking tonight to the nation. He's addressing the nation. Do you think that he will take this opportunity, should he take this opportunity, to appeal for calm and unity?
Outside of the convention being like watching paint dry, what they have said is that they want just law and order. The same kind of passion and swift response that they had to property damage, I need them to have to the loss of human life. Because the real root of this issue is in America, there is a lack of appreciation for black and brown lives.
Will the president address it, do you think?
History's shown that he hasn't.
Tonight?
Really, he hasn't. Will he do it for potentially political purposes? I think that's probably so. But in the end, if he wants to do something real, whether Republican or Democrat, my sleeves can roll up. I'm ready.
Can I thank you both for joining us?
Thank you.
For now, that's all from us here in Kenosha. Back to you, John.
Thanks, Siobhan. I can now speak with John Amici, the British basketball player who played in America's NBA during a very distinguished career. John Amici, this action by black American sportsmen shows far greater commitment than I think we've ever seen before, in the sense that they are very well-paid people who stand to lose tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. I think in the scheme of the reckless loss of human life, losing personal pay for people who can afford it is a small thing. I'm impressed with what they've done. I think it's foolish for anybody to think this is the end of it in terms of their activism. I think if we continue to see black people murdered by those who are sworn to protect and serve them, we are going to see this escalate. And I think we should, because we should expect our athletes to be role models for more than selling cheap garments. We should expect them to be people who see the incivilities going on around us in society and use their voice to amplify the voices of those who apparently are not heard.
To what extent would you have any confidence, and you know this game very, very well, that you would have any confidence that they might infect their owners to actually do something too? Because they're people with influence too.
Yeah, I would not dismiss that idea. We've seen it in Britain. Marcus Rashford, with his intervention, he provided a conversation that was well needed, that ensured that children who might otherwise have gone hungry over the summertime did not. And that kind of intervention is far more common in America. The idea that athletes start schools and are involved in politics and are more active is part of the narrative of American sport. So I think it can make a difference. And I think they're going to go straight to their owners, because they know that's the seat of real power, to make some additional changes.
Well, now, Donald Trump gives his speech in which he bids, obviously, for his second term with support from his own party. But many of his supporters must be sports fans. Will this move alienate them or perhaps penetrate their thinking? There's a question.
No, I mean, for me, the idea that one would become alienated from a sport because the people within it speak out on behalf of human dignity, because those people speak out on behalf of people who are being subjugated and abused, that would, to me, only suggest the caliber of the particular sports fan. I would not have much more but contempt for someone like that.
One last quick question, and that is, can you see a sports boycott here affecting sport in Britain? Is there enough power amongst the black community?
I don't think it's a question of the power in the black community. I think it's a question of the mindfulness of the sports and their ability to really come together and unionize with or without an actual union. But do players think of themselves as a cohesive unit that can have an impact on society? Because I can tell you for a fact in America they do. When I look at the Premier League in Britain, I think individuals do. I do not believe that the entire of the body of athletes think of themselves as anything more than people who should kick a ball.
John Amici, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.